Maybe shifting rooms at 3:30. We're confirming that detail now. What I'd like to do, Senator Ochoa, if you're comfortable with it, is I'd like you to get started. We may have to interrupt your hearing to move over to the other room. But if that's amenable to you, I'll just note, colleagues, that we have item number 4. This is Senate Bill 221. So I think what we can do before we're booted out of this room is we can at least have you do your presentation and hear from your witnesses. We may take a break at that point in time, and we believe we're going to be just right here across the hallway in the next room as we play this game of musical chairs. With that, the floor is yours, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'd like to begin by accepting the committee's amendments and thanking the staff and the chair for working with my staff to get our point and our intent across on this bill. Senate Bill 221 will better protect victims of stalking by amending the state penal code to conform to federal stalking statute. The crime of stalking is composed of a pattern of conduct that places victims in fear for their safety or the safety of their family members or pets. The standard of proof to convict a stalker is very high, the highest of all standards in the law, meaning there must be proof beyond a reasonable doubt of a pattern of stalking behavior to convict a perpetrator. Pet owners consider their animals to be members of their family or to be a necessary part of their lives if we're talking about service animals. And if a stalker threatens a victim's pet as a way to instill fear and exercise control, this behavior should count when establishing a pattern of stalking. Threats to family members are already covered under state law. SB 221 would simply update California's anti-stalking law by adding threats to pets to the list of behaviors used to establish a pattern of stalking. This is very important to note because it's not actually charging someone with threatening a pet, but it's adding the threat to a pet to a list of behaviors used to establish a pattern of stalking. Joining me today are Nick Sackett with the Social Compassion in Legislation and Robert Brown with the California District Attorneys Association.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members. Our organization, Social Compassion in Legislation, along with over 60 others and more than 400 individuals, strongly support this bill. We deeply understand the powerful bond Californians share with their animals. Every day, we witness the extraordinary efforts people make to protect their pets. The comfort, joy, and unconditional love our animals provide is truly unique. A 2024 Pew Research poll found that 97% of Americans consider their pet family, with 57% of women and 64% of lower-income individuals saying their pets are as important as human family members. Legally, animals may be considered property, but this bill acknowledges the emotional truth we all recognize. If your loved one came to you and said their ex was willfully and repeatedly harassing them and making credible threats to their pet, would you want to tell them that that behavior isn't illegal, that nothing can be done until the animal is actually harmed? To us, this kind of conduct should already be a crime. We respectfully disagree with the opposition's position. This bill is not about criminalizing insensitive behavior. It targets a very specific and serious pattern: malicious, willful, and repeated harassment that includes credible threats against a victim's animal. This conduct is not relatively minor. It is a calculated and traumatizing, and it exploits a known legal loophole. We urge the committee to recognize that threats to our animals are threats to our safety and well-being. The law should reflect this reality, and with that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Robert Brown of the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office, and on behalf of the California District Attorneys Association. On this bill, I'm also here on behalf of the Riverside County District Attorney's Office as a co-sponsor on the bill. Forgive me, I have to use Ben Franklin to help me with technology here. Stalking is a crime about control. A stalker inappropriately fixates on the target of their obsession, driven by an imagined love and fantasies of a future together. When the stalker realizes this future isn't going to happen, they enter a devaluation stage where they seek to punish and isolate the victim. The mentality is, if I can't have you, no one can. So the stalker seeks to rob the victim of any comfort or love that comes from anyone else. Who can we turn to for unconditional love? Who is always happy to see us first thing in the morning or after a long day at work? Our beloved animal companions, are furry family members, and for this reason, stalkers often target pets of their victims. Consider 18-year-old Brianna from Riverside County. Her stalker entered the devaluation stage and threatened to take her beloved kitten Wally and skin him alive. Under current law, that threat could not be considered part of stalking because Wally is a furry family member and not a human family member. Wally was, if the law had recognized this as stalking, law enforcement could have intervened. Her story could have ended differently, but it didn't. Simply because the law does not recognize pets in PC 646.9. That distinction didn't stop with Brianna's stalker. A few days later, her sweet kitten Wally was kidnapped by the stalker and used to lure Brianna to a field where she found her beloved pet dead. Sadly, Brianna is far from alone in her experience. Under the current law, we have to wait until the animal is taken or killed, i.e. the animal is victimized, to consider the conduct criminal. And even then, it's defined as theft or animal cruelty. But let's call it what it is. It should be stalking. Let's recognize the crime against the human here, and let's not wait until a pet is taken or killed. In cases like Brianna's, we are missing a golden opportunity to intervene before a tragedy occurs. All it takes to change that is recognition that pets are like family and can be equally effective tool stalkers use to torment their victims. We respectfully ask your aye vote on SB 221 to give protection to the most innocent and vulnerable victims of stalking behavior and ensure that perpetrators of this crime are held fully responsible. And on a personal note, I would like to say that this kind of a crime that's just been described is an aberration. It is not. It doesn't take very long as a prosecutor till you encounter one of these cases. I have seen multiple cases where a kitten or a dog or a puppy has been abused or threatened with abuse, so that the stalker can exert some sort of obsessive control over the victim in the case. I think many of us are in public service because we don't like bullies. I've heard that here today many times. I think that I've also heard some words of wisdom that no one should live in fear, and that's exactly what kind of thing that this behavior instills in the victim. And so I request your aye vote. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator, for the presentation. Thank you to both of our witnesses. Very quick programming note, we're going to proceed on with this hearing. We are unable to use the room across the way. Assembly Judiciary is still going. So we are going to finish this bill. To my colleagues, we're then going to do consent and add-ons because we may be losing members for the rest of the day. We are then going to have to stand in recess until we get this room back, which will be upon conclusion of veteran and military, which is going to be roughly 5:30 p.m. So if you're here waiting for any other bill, I am very sorry, but we're going to have to break after this hearing and wait to get the room back. With that said, I'll go over all that again in a few minutes. We're now going to hear Me Too's in support of the Senator's bill. Any Me Too's in support? Okay, come on forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ryan Sherman with the Riverside Sheriff Association in support.
Dylan Finley on behalf of the ASPCA in support.
Gigi Garum, animal lover, definitely in support.
Thank you very much. All right, is anyone here hoping to testify in opposition to the bill? Okay, we have a few folks. Come on down.
Move the bill. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're still going to let them testify, Mr. Vice Chair. He knows that. I'm just giving him a hard time. You guys will have 5 minutes. You know the drill. And if you're a Me Too for this bill, if you want to start lining up while they're testifying right against that wall right there, we'll take you right after.
Go ahead.
Chair and members, my name is Aubrey Rodriguez, and I'm a legislative advocate with ACLU California Action. Our organization is in opposition to SB 221, which would greatly expand the definition of what constitutes stalking, a crime that carries with it a punishment between 1 and 5 years in prison. The ACLU is concerned that broadening the language could lead to the over-criminalization of actions that, while insensitive or unwelcome, do not rise to the level of true stalking and warrant imprisonment. Criminalizing behavior that is insensitive is not only impractical but dangerous. Over-criminalization exacerbates existing racial and economic disparities in the justice system while also disproportionately affecting individuals who are low income and unable to afford legal representation or pay fines. This expansion of criminal activity can ensnare individuals in the criminal justice system for relatively minor infractions, leading to long-term consequences such as loss of employment, housing, and civil liberties. As advocates for community members who do not have the privilege of addressing policymakers directly, we ask you to be mindful of these impacts when considering legislation that seeks to expand criminal penalties for nonviolent offenses. Lastly, it is important to note that existing law already provides protections to animals under the animal cruelty laws at the state and federal level. And as noted in the Senate Public Safety Committee analysis, a prosecutor can currently already argue that any person who reasonably fears for their own safety if the perpetrator was threatening a person's pet in addition to committing other harassing or threatening behavior against that person, can prosecute them. Which is why the Senate analysis does aptly state makes this bill entirely unnecessary. For these reasons, we do urge your no vote on SB 221 and respectfully oppose this bill. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Elizabeth Kim, the Policy Director at Initiate Justice. I'm a lawyer. I've served at the DOJ and an educator who has taught inside level 3 and 4 California state prisons. I've also personally worked on DVRO cases, and I've personally been a victim of stalking cases myself, and I'm also a proud pet owner. And I understand the emotional harm involved here. I'm here today to respectfully oppose SB 221. I'm going to go over 4 quick points. The first, as my colleague stated, the redundancy. Tools already exist. We already have laws that protect people in these cases. The DVRO cases allow for pets to be included in protective orders and vandalism laws, as well as current stalking statutes. This bill does not fill that gap, nor does it provide clarity. There's a legal ambiguity here, and unequal enforcement would result. So what counts as a credible threat to an emotional support animal, there's no clear standard. So without definitions, enforcement will vary wildly by county, by officer, by bias. That's a due process problem and a setup for uneven justice. Thirdly, there's a fiscal impact where there's an unfunded mandate here. This bill would expand the stalking statute without adding resources, creating an unfunded mandate. My legal experience has exposed me to how these kinds of expansions strain our court system and pull resources away from higher priority threats. Lastly, there is no proven safety benefit that's proven. The National Institute of Justice and Bureau of Justice Statistics have shown time and time again, harsher penalties do not deter crime. What we would like to see is support services, consistency in enforcement, trauma-informed approaches, and investment into preventing measures so that our pets are safe. What we would like to see are better alternatives, and I'd like to close with this. Instead of expanding on a definition or a statute, let's train and work with law enforcement on how to use the tools we already have, and let's invest in services for victims to prevent these crimes from happening, not build broader statutes with unintended consequences. And as someone who's worked on both policy and the front lines and who love pets, I urge you to vote no on SB 221.
About 5 minutes.
Sure, you
Real
have
quick.
about 30 seconds, but go for it.
And I just want to say on page 3 of the analysis, it does state it is arguable under California statute that if a person threatens a pet with harm, it may still constitute stalking because there is a credible reason to think the harm will escalate to a person, which again makes this bill unnecessary. Thank you.
All right, thank you both very much. Any other Me Too's? Anyone else hoping to be heard on the bill? Okay, we'll turn it back to the committee. We do have a motion and a second, I'll just note. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? I only have one question. Mr. Brown, correct, from CDAA? You've heard the skepticism that the bill is unnecessary and duplicative of previously stated law. What's your response? What's the position of CDAA?
Well, then I wonder why the other arguments are made, if that's the case. But I also think that if appellate courts often look to the plain language of a law, and what I heard my colleague here say is that it is arguable. That means there is ambiguity that needs to be resolved that could be placed in front of a jury and they won't know the answer. If you have it explicitly in the statute, it will remove any question that threatening the harm to that pet is a method of intimidation that's part of stalking.
All right, thank you, sir. Colleagues, does that spur any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Senator, would you like to give a brief closing statement?
Absolutely. I just want to state that the current law ignores how powerful a threat to a beloved pet can be. Not updating the statute leaves victims vulnerable and gives stalkers a method of perpetrating fear in their victims without consequence. This bill, all it's doing is adding the threat to a pet to a list of behaviors used to establish a pattern of stalking. A list. So it is a component of a bigger, greater component of actually establishing the threat to establish a pattern of stalking, and therefore I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much, Senator. Colleagues, appreciate the Senator working with our committee staff to, I think, make the bill better. I am recommending an aye. Let's conduct the roll.
On item number 4, SB 221 by Senator Ochoa Bogue, the motion is do pass as amended to the Appropriations Committee. Schultz. Schultz, aye. Alanis. Alanis, aye. Gonzalez. Gonzalez, aye. Haney. Harbedian. Lackey. Lackey, aye. Wynn. Ramos. Ramos, aye. Sharp Collins.
Measure passes.
Okay, that bill is out. We'll keep it open for others to add on. Thank you, everybody. Colleagues, before